The morning of December 4th, 2024, began like any other in Midtown Manhattan. The city was alive with the usual sounds of traffic and the hurried footsteps of people on their way to work. But on this cold winter day, the normal rhythm of New York City was about to be shattered by an act of shocking violence. Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, was walking along a sidewalk, likely thinking about the day ahead. He was a powerful figure in the American healthcare industry, a man whose decisions affected millions. His position made him a public figure, but he probably never imagined the danger that was waiting for him just a few steps away. It was a calculated, brutal act that would send ripples across the entire country. Brian Thompson was at the very top of his field. As the head of one of the largest health insurance companies in the United States, he was a symbol of corporate America. For some, he represented success and innovation. For others, he was the face of a system they felt was broken and unfair. Health insurance is a deeply personal and often contentious issue in America. Many people struggle with high costs and denied claims. This frustration can create intense feelings, and for some, Thompson became a target for that anger. He was a man who lived in a world of boardrooms and high-stakes finance, far removed from the daily struggles of ordinary people trying to get the medical care they needed. On that December morning, Thompson was attending a health conference at the New York Hilton Midtown. As he walked outside the hotel, a lone gunman approached him. The attacker was patient and deliberate. It was not a random act of violence. It was a targeted assassination, carried out in broad daylight on a busy city street. The gunman fired his weapon, striking Thompson. The sound of gunshots echoed through the concrete canyons of Manhattan, causing instant panic and confusion. The attacker then calmly blended back into the crowd and disappeared, leaving behind a scene of chaos and a high-profile executive dying on the pavement. The brazen nature of the attack was stunning. The crime was meticulously planned. The gunman had waited for the perfect moment to strike. He wore a mask to hide his face, making immediate identification nearly impossible. The weapon he used was later discovered to have words written on the bullets, messages of anger directed at the healthcare system. This detail revealed a deep-seated rage and a desire to send a message. The location itself was significant. Killing a CEO outside a major hotel in one of the busiest parts of New York City was a bold statement. It was an attack not just on one man, but on the entire corporate world he represented. The city that never sleeps was now the scene of a chilling and unforgettable murder. In the hours and days that followed the murder, the New York Police Department launched a massive investigation. They pieced together clues from surveillance footage, witness statements, and evidence left at the scene. A picture of the suspect began to emerge. He was a young man, and police released images of him to the public, hoping for a tip that would lead to his identity. The manhunt quickly went from a citywide search to a national one. The suspect was on the run, and the entire country was watching. It was a classic cat-and-mouse game, with law enforcement using every tool at their disposal to track down the killer of a major American CEO. The pressure was on to find him before he could disappear completely. The victim, Brian Thompson, was a married father of two. He had built a long and successful career in the healthcare industry, but the public's view of him was complicated. While his colleagues saw him as a leader, many Americans saw United Healthcare as a company that prioritized profits over patients. The news of his murder sparked a strange and unsettling reaction online. On social media platforms, a surprising number of people expressed not sympathy for the victim, but support for the killer. They saw the murder as an act of rebellion against a system that they felt had failed them. This reaction was a dark reflection of the deep anger and desperation many people felt about their healthcare. As the manhunt continued, the suspect, later identified as 26-year-old Luigi Mangione, began to develop a strange following. Some people online started calling him a folk hero. They created memes, fan art, and posts praising his actions. The distinctive jacket he was seen wearing in surveillance photos reportedly sold out online as people rushed to buy it. There were even organized efforts to obstruct the police investigation. When police learned that Mangione had stayed at a hostel, his online supporters flooded the hostel's review pages with negative comments, calling the employees narcs for cooperating with law enforcement. It was a bizarre and modern form of public response, where a murder suspect was celebrated by a vocal minority. This folk hero phenomenon was deeply troubling to many. It highlighted a profound division in American society. How could anyone celebrate a cold-blooded murder? For his supporters, Mangione was not just a killer, he was a symbol of resistance. They saw his violent act as a desperate cry for help from a generation burdened by debt and a broken system. The bullets with angry messages written on them became a rallying cry for this online movement. The story was no longer just about a man who was killed and the man who killed him. It was about the simmering rage that existed just beneath the surface of American life, now bubbling up in the most shocking way imaginable. The intensive manhunt came to an end on December 9, 2024, just 5 days after the murder. Acting on a tip, police located Luigi Mangione in Altoona, Pennsylvania, a small city hundreds of miles from the crime scene in Manhattan. He was found at a local McDonald's and was arrested without incident. The capture brought a sense of relief to law enforcement and to a public that had been on edge. At the time of his arrest, Mangione was carrying a document that reportedly detailed his grievances against corporate America, further cementing the motive behind the assassination. He claimed to have acted alone, a lone wolf driven by a powerful ideology. His arrest was the final chapter of the chase, but the beginning of a long legal battle. The capture of Mangione immediately became a major political event. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro held a press conference that was broadcast across the country. He spoke in strong terms, condemning the violence and the idea that murder could be a form of political protest. In America, we do not kill people in cold blood to resolve policy differences or express a viewpoint, he declared. Shapiro, who is seen as a rising star in the Democratic Party and a potential presidential candidate for 2028, used the moment to project an image of calm and steady leadership. He drew a line between legitimate protest and violent extremism, trying to steer the national conversation away from the dangerous path it seemed to be on. The political reaction extended beyond just one governor. The murder of a prominent CEO forced a national conversation about the tone of political discourse in America. Some commentators blamed the heated rhetoric surrounding corporate greed in healthcare for creating an environment where such an act could be seen as justified by some. Others pushed back, arguing that the blame lay solely with the individual who pulled the trigger. The crime became a political football, with different sides using it to advance their own narratives. It exposed the deep and bitter divides in the country where even a murder could become a point of partisan debate and finger-pointing. The fallout was messy and complicated with no easy answers. Meanwhile, Luigi Mangione began his legal fight from a jail cell in Pennsylvania. He filed petitions to fight his extradition back to New York, where he would face murder charges. His case was set to become one of the most high-profile trials in recent memory. The evidence against him seemed strong, including the surveillance footage and the documents found on him at the time of his arrest. The stage was set for a courtroom drama that would captivate the nation, forcing jurors and the public alike to confront difficult questions about justice, responsibility, and the anger that had led to such a shocking and violent act on a cold winter morning in New York City. The murder of Brian Thompson left a lasting mark on American society. It was more than just a single crime, it was a symptom of a deeper illness. The event forced a national soul-searching about the state of the American dream, and the growing despair felt by many. The fact that a significant number of people could celebrate a killer as a hero was a wake-up call. It showed that the social contract, the unspoken agreement that holds society together, was fraying. The case became a mirror, reflecting a country struggling with economic inequality, political polarization, and a healthcare system that many feel is fundamentally unjust. The conversation was no longer just about insurance premiums, it was about life, death, and desperation. The impact was felt deeply within the corporate world. For CEOs and other high-level executives, the assassination was a terrifying reminder of their own vulnerability. The attack shattered the sense of security that often comes with wealth and power. Companies began to reassess their security protocols for top executives. The murder of Brian Thompson was a message, and corporate America heard it loud and clear. It was a stark illustration that public anger was not just something that existed on social media or in protest signs. It could manifest in the most violent and personal way imaginable, turning a public figure into a target. The sense of safety in the boardroom had been breached. For the average American, the story was a source of deep unease. It brought the country's most heated debates into sharp, violent focus. The case forced people to confront uncomfortable truths about their neighbors and their nation. Could the person next to you be harboring such extreme anger? The online celebration of Mangione revealed a dark undercurrent of rage that many people didn't know existed, or perhaps chose to ignore. It created a sense of anxiety and distrust. The murder was a tragic event that widened the cracks in an already divided society, making it harder for people on different sides of the issues to understand one another or find common ground. Ultimately, the twisted murder of Brian Thompson serves as a cautionary tale. It is a story about what can happen when frustration and anger are left to fester without any healthy outlet. It highlights the real-world consequences of dehumanizing rhetoric, whether it is directed at the poor or the powerful. The legacy of this crime is not just the loss of one man's life, but the chilling realization that the distance between angry words online and violent actions on the street may be shorter than anyone wants to believe. It left America with a profound and unsettling question. How do we fix what is broken before it breaks us completely?